The rain lashed against the windows of our small cottage in the Cotswolds, mirroring the storm brewing inside me. For 20 years, Alaric, a software engineer, had built a life with my wife, Bronte. We met in university, two bright-eyed kids with dreams of conquering the world. We settled instead for a quiet life, far from the city's clamor. Or so I thought. The first crack appeared subtly, a hairline fracture in the foundation of our seemingly perfect world. Bronte, always meticulous, started taking extra care with her appearance. New dresses arrived, expensive perfumes wafted through the house, and her gym visits became more frequent. I attributed it to her wanting to feel good about herself. After all, we were both approaching 50, a milestone that brings with it a certain introspection. Then came the late nights at work. Bronte, a librarian, had always kept regular hours. Suddenly, she was attending evening meetings, organizing special events, and staying back to catalog new acquisitions. I remember asking her about a specific rare book she mentioned, only to be met with a vague answer and a dismissive wave of her hand. "Oh, you wouldn't be interested, Alaric. It's all very technical." The doubts began to gnaw at me, tiny whispers in the back of my mind. But I pushed them away, clinging to the belief that Bronte and I were different. We were solid, a team. We had weathered storms before. This was just a phase, a temporary blip. My first real jolt came unexpectedly. I was sorting through old photographs, a nostalgic trip down memory lane, when I stumbled upon a receipt tucked inside a photo album. It was from a small boutique hotel in Bath, a place Bronte had supposedly visited for a library conference. The date on the receipt coincided with the conference, but the room was a double suite, not a single as she had claimed. My heart pounded in my chest, a cold dread washing over me. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe the hotel had upgraded her room. But the seed of suspicion had been planted, and it began to grow, feeding on my insecurities and fears. I started paying closer attention to Bronte's phone. It was always locked, always face down. She would clutch it protectively, even when she went to the bathroom. One evening, while she was in the shower, I succumbed to temptation. I knew it was wrong, a violation of her privacy, but I couldn't resist the urge to know the truth. Her phone was password protected, but I knew her birthday. It was the first thing I tried, and to my horror it worked. My hands trembled as I scrolled through her messages. There it was, a string of messages with a name I didn't recognize. Lysander. The messages were filled with sickeningly sweet endearments, stolen moments, and promises of a future together. My world tilted on its axis. The words swam before my eyes, each one a dagger twisting in my heart. "I can't wait to be with you again, my love. Thinking of your touch. Missing you terribly, Lysander." Who the hell was Lysander? I felt a wave of nausea rising in my throat. I quickly deleted the messages I had read and replaced the phone exactly as I had found it. I stumbled out of the bedroom, gasping for air. The rain outside seemed to mock me, each drop a reminder of my shattered reality. Bronte emerged from the shower, her face flushed and her hair wrapped in a towel. She smiled at me, a smile that now felt like a cruel mockery. "Everything all right, Alaric? You look pale." "I'm fine," I managed to croak out. "Just a bit tired." That night I lay awake beside her, staring at the ceiling. Bronte slept soundly, oblivious to the turmoil raging inside me. I felt like a stranger in my own bed, next to a woman I no longer recognized. The next few days were a blur. I went through the motions of daily life, but I was merely a shell of my former self. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep, and I couldn't shake the image of Bronte with another man. I decided I needed to find out who Lysander was. I started subtly questioning Bronte, dropping hints about her late nights at work, about the library conference in Bath. She became defensive, her answers evasive. "Why are you grilling me, Alaric? What's gotten into you?" "Just curious," I replied, trying to sound nonchalant. "It just seems like you've been spending a lot of time away from home lately." "I'm busy, Alaric. I have a job to do." Her tone was sharp, dismissive. It was then that I knew I couldn't confront her directly. I needed proof, concrete evidence to expose her betrayal. I decided to hire a private investigator. It was a drastic step, but I felt like I had no other choice. I found a reputable agency online and arranged a meeting with a detective named Mallory. She was a no-nonsense woman with a sharp eye and a keen sense of observation. I explained my suspicions to Mallory, showing her the hotel receipt and the cryptic messages I had found on Bronte's phone. She listened patiently, taking notes and asking probing questions. "I understand your concerns, Mr. Ainsworth," she said. "I'll assign someone to follow your wife and gather evidence. We'll get to the bottom of this." The waiting was agonizing. Every day felt like an eternity. I couldn't focus on my work, my mind constantly replaying the images of Bronte with Lysander. I imagined them laughing, touching, sharing intimate moments that were once reserved for me. A week later, Mallory called me with an update. "I have some information for you, Mr. Ainsworth. I suggest you come to my office." My heart sank. I knew what she was going to say. I drove to the detective agency in a daze, bracing myself for the inevitable. Mallory greeted me with a grim expression. "I'm afraid your suspicions were correct, Mr. Ainsworth. Your wife is having an affair." She handed me a thick envelope filled with photographs. I opened it with trembling hands. The pictures showed Bronte entering a small apartment in a nearby town. She was holding hands with a man I had never seen before. They kissed passionately before disappearing inside. Other photos showed them dining at a restaurant, laughing and flirting. They looked like any other couple in love, except Bronte was my wife and the man was not me. I felt a wave of anger washing over me, a burning rage that threatened to consume me. I wanted to scream, to break things, to lash out at anyone who crossed my path. "Who is he?" I asked Mallory, my voice barely a whisper. "His name is Lysander Thorne. He's a local artist. Apparently, he met your wife at a library exhibition a few months ago." Lysander Thorne. The name echoed in my head, a symbol of my humiliation and betrayal. I thanked Mallory for her work and left the agency, clutching the envelope of photographs like a weapon. I drove home in a blind fury, my mind racing with thoughts of revenge. I arrived at the cottage to find Bronte waiting for me. She greeted me with a smile that now seemed like a calculated lie. "How was your day, darling?" she asked. I didn't say a word. I simply handed her the envelope of photographs. She took them, her smile faltering as she recognized the contents. Her face paled and her eyes widened in horror. "Alaric," she stammered, her voice trembling. "Don't," I said, my voice cold and hard. "Don't even try to explain." She dropped the photographs on the floor, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so sorry, Alaric. I didn't mean for this to happen." "Mean for it to happen," I repeated, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "You didn't mean to betray me. You didn't mean to lie to me. You didn't mean to sleep with another man. It was a mistake," she sobbed. "It was just a moment of weakness." "A moment of weakness that lasted for months," I retorted. "A moment of weakness that involved secret messages, stolen kisses, and clandestine meetings." She sank to her knees, begging for forgiveness. "Please, Alaric, don't leave me. I love you. I made a mistake, but I can fix it." I looked at her, at the woman I had loved for 20 years, and I felt nothing but contempt. The love I once felt for her had been replaced by a bitter resentment, a deep-seated anger that would never be erased. "It's over, Bronte," I said, my voice devoid of emotion. "I want you out of my house. I want a divorce." She pleaded with me, promising to change, to be the wife I deserved, but I was unmoved. The trust was broken, the bond severed. There was no going back. I spent the next few weeks in a daze, going through the motions of separating our lives. I contacted a lawyer, filed for divorce, and started dividing our assets. Bronte moved out of the cottage and into a small apartment in town. She tried to contact me to apologize, to explain, but I refused to speak to her. I needed time to heal, to grieve the loss of my marriage, to rebuild my life without her. The divorce was finalized a few months later. It was a clean break, a complete severing of our ties. I sold the cottage in the Cotswolds and moved to a small coastal town in Cornwall. I needed a fresh start, a new environment to escape the memories that haunted me. I threw myself into my work, spending long hours coding and developing new software. I found solace in the rhythm of the keyboard, in the logic of the code. It was a distraction, a way to silence the voices in my head. One evening, while browsing online, I stumbled upon an article about Lysander Thorne. He was being accused of fraud, of selling fake artwork to unsuspecting buyers. The article mentioned that he had disappeared, leaving behind a trail of angry investors and unpaid debts. I felt a strange sense of satisfaction. Karma, it seemed, had finally caught up with him. He had destroyed my marriage, and now his own life was crumbling around him. I didn't feel any joy, any sense of triumph, just a quiet resignation. The pain of Bronte's betrayal would always be a part of me, a scar that would never fully heal. But I was determined to move on, to build a new life for myself, to find happiness again. I started taking long walks along the coast, breathing in the fresh sea air and watching the waves crash against the shore. I joined a local photography club, rediscovering my passion for capturing the beauty of the natural world. Slowly, gradually, I began to heal. The anger subsided, replaced by a quiet acceptance. I realized that Bronte's betrayal was not a reflection of me, but a reflection of her own flaws and insecurities. I learned to forgive her, not for her sake, but for my own. Holding on to anger and resentment would only poison my own soul. Letting go was the only way to move forward. Years passed. I built a successful freelance career, working from my small apartment overlooking the sea. I made new friends, explored new hobbies, and discovered a newfound sense of independence. One day I received a letter from Bronte. It was the first time I had heard from her since the divorce. I hesitated before opening it, unsure if I was ready to confront the past. The letter was filled with apologies, with regrets, with a desperate plea for forgiveness. Bronte wrote about how she had lost everything after the affair. Lysander had abandoned her, leaving her penniless and alone. She had lost her job, her friends, and her reputation. She admitted that she had made a terrible mistake, that she had thrown away the best thing that had ever happened to her. She begged me to forgive her, to give her another chance. I read the letter with a mixture of emotions, pity, sadness, and a faint flicker of something else. But it wasn't love. It wasn't even friendship. It was simply a recognition of our shared history, of the years we had spent together. I didn't reply to the letter. I didn't feel the need to. Bronte had made her choices, and she had to live with the consequences. I had made my choices, and I was finally at peace with them. I closed the letter and placed it in a drawer, a reminder of the pain I had endured, but also of the strength I had found within myself. I walked to the window and looked out at the sea. The sun was setting, painting the sky with vibrant colors. I took a deep breath, filling my lungs with the salty air. I was free. Free from the past, free from the anger, free from the betrayal. I was ready to embrace the future, whatever it may hold. And as I stood there watching the sun sink below the horizon, I knew that I would be okay. I would survive. I would thrive. The storm had passed, and the sun was finally shining again.